All right, so just a brief introduction to the section that's coming. This is the rig frame design, and all credits for this rig frame design goes to Bitsby Trippin and his YouTube channel. He's great. I follow him on YouTube. I watch his videos. Just been around the mining community for a very long time, and introduced me to some really interesting projects. He's very approachable. He's got a Discord chat that's great. It's him and his wife that do it. But some of his videos can be really, really long, even though they're packed with information. So what I wanted to do was condense this down, this actual rig frame design and build, into a couple of bite-sized chunks of each section of the rig frame build and design. So I apologize in advance because the video can be a little shaky. It's literally me in the garage with my phone, but the majority of this course is going to be just like this. Me sitting here, in a small section of the screen, recording the actual screen itself, and much less shaky. So I apologize in advance if it really bugs you, but the sections after this next one are a lot more stable. So once you've actually made your cuts, these are the tools that I'm using. Just a file to kind of square things up once you've actually made the cut, because typically you never cut them straight. So if they're going to be squirrely or not perfectly level, at least they're not going to be kind of squirrely together. I haven't had any issues combining them afterwards or having weird angles or wobbly rig frames, so it seems to work out. Just a standard hacksaw with small teeth on it. I tried jigsaw, but there's too much wiggle. It shakes too much on these tables. I don't have a really great bench or working area. You can see here I've got kind of a finished section. These are 11 inches, 4 sections at 11 inches. These are 16.5, so 4 sections at 16.5, and then these are 26.5. So let me zoom out. Can't even get them all on the frame, but these are 4 sections at 26.5. And that essentially makes your rig frame outline. Another quick tip I've learned, it actually helps to start your groove here with a file. I measured out my 11 inches. I got to cut a section of 4 11-inch pieces. So starting the groove off with the file makes it a lot easier than trying to drag your hacksaw across that groove and get it straight. Okay, so I have my components here laid out for my rig frame. This is a 26.5-inch cut of pine wood, just 1x4. This is a 16.5-inch cut of 1x4, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. We already talked about cutting these angled aluminum brackets. And again, just to reiterate, these are 11 inches, these are 16.5, and these are 26.5. So now let's get them together. So first, I'm going to take a 26.5-inch piece, the 16.5-inch piece, so the 16.5-inch piece, and lay it on top of the 26.5-inch piece. And then take this and kind of square them up behind. So you see how that's getting together there? And then we're going to screw these together with a 16.5-inch piece of pine. Like that. So the self-tapping screws are going to get screwed in here and then here. Okay. So the screws that I'm going to use are the self-tapping 1/2-inch number 8 Tex self-tapping screws. I'm just using a standard power drill. Whoops. Grab that. And you can see I've clamped it down, both holding the corner bracket as well as the wood to the table. And just going to screw in. So that's one down. and a whole bunch more to go. I'm going to take this clamp off and screw into this side. See if I can do this with a camera here. Awesome. Sorry for the shaking camera, but it gives you a nice idea of exactly what I'm doing. So now we're going to do the other side. Those screws just have no problems punching right through that aluminum and right into the pine. So we'll take this clamp off now. Grab another screw. All right, so one side is done. So now that we have that side done, we're going to do the other side. You can see that's the side that we screwed in on. And now I've set up this side in the same way. I'll try and get the camera to stay here. Okay. And if you guys have a better way of doing this, I'm sure some of you will. Hopefully getting ideas right now. Just as long as everybody's getting into this space, I think it's a great thing. So the more people, the more miners, just the more people in general bringing ideas to this space, I think it's a great thing. I think it's here to stay, and hopefully it's a new way to generate some income for people. There's one. Whoops. There we go. Okay. And here's two. Now we're going to flip it and do it again. So I've tilted it sideways. Well, tilted it. I've turned it sideways. And set it up again. So this is our last corner. Take this clamp off. And one more screw. Okay, so the bottom part of our frame is done. We're going to flip it over and do what's going to be the top. So again, this is the second corner I'm doing here, and I'm just using scrap wood. So this is not a 16.5-inch piece, this is just scrap. So I'm going to clamp this down, straighten out the rig frame a little bit here. So if you can have somebody help you with this, that's ideal. I don't have any help at the moment. So clamps are my help. So we've now got that clamp down. My screwdriver and my screws. There's one. And here comes number two. Whoops. Ha! No, because I was trying to screw it in backwards because I changed the direction on the drill by accident. Well, it happens. Wow, that was a lot easier. All right, so we're gonna wiggle our scrap out. That's it. On to the next one. So you can see I laid the other 16.5-inch pieces of wood down into the bottom of the frame. I just spaced them by eyeball. I didn't measure them out or anything. So the OCD among you may want to measure them out and keep them all evenly spaced. It's not bothering me right now, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. So I'm going to get a couple screws. And we're going to screw into the wood here. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do is our graphics card support. So you have to kind of decide which area you want to be your front and then measure down roughly 4 inches. If you have your graphics cards already, you can actually use them to kind of gauge it and hang one off the top and see where this actually comes to and then measure that accordingly. All right, let me get this set up now. Okay, so now we're going to put together one of our rigs, one of the three. And I got the solid state drives. It's just a 256 gig 850 Evo from Samsung. I've had a lot of success with them from a stability perspective over the years. I've got the 8th generation Core i3 because it's the cheapest processor I could find for the 8th generation boards. Don't make the same mistake I did. We're using an 8th generation Z370A Prime that needs an 8th generation LGA 1151 socket CPU. Now, I bought the Celeron processors thinking I was going to save a little bit of money. That didn't work, but that's why I bought the components ahead of time and trying to put these rigs together before all these cards get here, so that I can just work with the issues I'm sure I'm going to experience putting these cards on these rigs and getting them up and running. It's bad enough to get 3 computers all running and working with brand new components, let alone trying to get 7 or 8 graphics cards on these rigs in addition to that. I've got 8 GB DDR4 RAM, 2400 megahertz, again, cheapest that I could find, but also, you know, keeping in mind stability and my experience with this stuff in the past. It's Corsair, so I've always had good luck with them. I've also got an 850 watt, one of the 2 power supplies we're going to be using. This is an EVGA 850 G2. And that's that for now. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. When this is together, these components, they're going to be exposed when I start drilling in the actual graphics cards on the top part of this rig. So what that can do is it can create metal shavings, which could potentially cause shorts if they're left on the components. Not something that you want, especially when, you know, I'm very cognizant of the fact that these things can be considered a fire hazard. Last thing I want to do is create a fire. So the only way that I can kind of get around that is to cover the equipment when you're drilling in the actual graphics cards to the top of the rig frame. So keep that in mind, and don't forget to cover your equipment if you're mounting them prior to mounting the cards. And I'm not quite sure how you do the components, like mount the components after you mounted all your cards, because you're not going to have any room to work once you've got 8 cards on top of your components. So just something to consider and be aware of.